Hi, welcome back to our next tutorial. Today's tutorial is going to be on loading styles, and we're going to work with our shadows. So we're going to, if you can see on this layout that I created for the assignment, doesn't have any shadows. And it makes a big difference to add shadows to your layout and makes it come alive. So for this class, that's what we're going to learn how to do. So a style, for those of you that may not know what a style is, it's a preset action that you can load onto your computer that is all set up for you. So there's ways that you can create your own shadows by using the items up here, but these have been created and saved for you so that it takes out that work for you. So first off, we've got to load our styles. And you want to make sure that over here on your right-hand side that your style area is here. If it's not showing up here on the right-hand side, then go to Window and then just make sure where it says Style that you've got that checked, and then that will open up this little tab over here. So I've got mine already open. And there's the way to load your styles. There's a couple different ways. You can drag them in from your file folder, or you can add them in a different way, and which is the way I'm going to show you how. So just looking at our file folder, you should have downloaded the styles from our shop there at Ginger Scraps. There should have been a link for you to get those styles. There's going to be two different sets of styles depending on the programs that you're working with for these classes. There's a style that's a shadow styles and there's both left and right shadow, drop shadows. This one is for Photopea, and then this other one is for Photoshop. So if you're using Photoshop or Photoshop Elements, you'll want to load these styles. If you're using the Photopea program, then this is the set of styles that you're going to want to load. After creating them, we realized that they show up differently in the different programs. So we had to create two different sets. So that is where our styles are, and you've got them saved on your computer. So go ahead and minimize this. So over here on the styles things, there's this little arrow, and you click on where it says load ASL. So you click on load ASL, and it's going to open up this area, and I've got to go to where that has been saved, and I'm going to click on the ones that are for Photopea. So you click on that. You can either double click or just click on it and select open. And as you can see over here, it's loaded these set of styles, and the top 6 of them have your left drop shadows, and the next 6 have a right drop shadow. And if you hover your mouse over the styles, it will tell you what this style is used for and what we've created it for. So this one here, this first one, is for stitching, staples, and tape. The next one over is for your paper and your photos. This third one is for ribbons, scatters, and clips. This one here is for if you have a frame or a tag, or layered papers, maybe a thicker element that you're using, something with chipboard. This is a good shadow to use on that. And then this 5th style shadow is for your buttons, flowers, leaves that are a little bit more dimensional, may have a deeper shadow. And then this last one is for your banners and your strings, and if you have any wire elements which have a different shadow on them. You're welcome to use any of these shadows if you have a preference of how you like your shadows to look. This is just the way that we've set them up, and it makes it a little bit easier to put them on your page and where you need shadows, and kind of gives you a little bit of a description of where to use them. For an example, if you're putting a shadow on tape, your tape is barely going to have a shadow because it's stuck onto your element, your photo or whatever it's taping down. Whereas a flower may, say for instance, this shadow here is this flower here is a thicker flower because it's got these two different layers, and so it's on top of these other elements, so it's going to have a shadow that stands out a little bit more. Your string isn't going to be, unless you glue it straight to your paper, it's going to stand up above your paper a little bit, so it's going to have a different shadow. So we're going to go ahead and add shadows to this layout that I created, and we'll just kind of do that one step at a time. One thing that we did on these shadows is the shallower shadow is your first. So things that are just barely have a shadow at all is going to be your first, and then it goes up and up and up till you've got your biggest shadow for your banners and strings and things like that. So that's they are kind of in order as far as size, the way here over here in our styles. So I'm going to click on this staple, which is not going to have a very deep shadow, and click on this first one. And then I'm just going to go along and do these tapes because they're going to have that same very shallow shadow. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so that you can kind of see the shadows going on there. One thing, this is just a little tip here. If you want to move your photo and not see how I want to move it over so that I can see that area, if you hold your space bar down, it turns into a little hand. And then you can use your left click and drag your whole layout to wherever you want it. Just a little tip and a pointer. Okay, so these have the shadows on them. You can see it's just barely a little bit of a shadow that just pops that up off the page a little bit. Same here, the staple, you don't want it to have a really deep shadow because you don't want your staple to look like it's floating on your page. So next I'm going to put a shadow on my photo and my paper, so which is going to be my matte paper and then these other papers. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Control minus zooms out, Control plus zooms in. So I'm going to zoom out. So I'm going to click on the photo first and click on the second one that says photo and paper. Click on there. I added that shadow. Click on this next layer. Sorry, got to enter, my computer's lagging a little bit, it looks like, but that's okay. Okay, click on this next layer, add my paper photo shadow to that. And then I've got these papers here. I'm just going to go ahead and select all my papers. So these are all just your papers, like your scrapbook paper. Those are the ones that we're going to be using this shadow on it. Well, it's not letting me grab that, so I'm going to go over here to the layers and just grab it over here. And if you can see, the ones that have that style added to them will have this EFF, which stands for effect. So it's got an effect added to those. So any of those that have the EFF are ones that we've already added our shadows to. And I know I want to add that shadow to this paper. And I want to add it to these two papers here, so which are right here. So those are already added. So I've got all my strips of paper. I do want to add it to my circle back here. Zoom out a little bit and add that shadow onto there. Okay, so you can see that the paper now has a shadow on it. And if you want your paper to stand out a little bit more, you can go ahead, you can use the one that's made for your frames or your layered paper. If you want your, if you're like a cardstock, for instance, might be a thicker paper. So maybe on this photo mat, I may want to use the layered paper shadow. That just pops it out a little bit more. Just do that however you feel and that visually that you like. So I've got the shadow on my tape, my staple, and then all my, just my scrapbook paper. And then I've got my, these elements back behind here. There's one for scatters. I believe it's, yeah, it's this third one over that says ribbon, scatters, clips. And it's not just for those two. So just so you know, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you can put it on. Just kind of helps you out if you need some little pointers of where to add those shadows. Okay, and then my next one is this fifth shadow, which is for button flowers and leaves. And I'm going to use those on these elements here. So I'm going to add that little bit of a deeper shadow. And remember, you can just hover over it if you can't tell which one that is for. Just hover on it and it will pull up that little description. Okay, so it shows here over here on the right hand side that I've got an effect on all those. Looks like I've got a piece of tape that I didn't add a shadow to, so I'm going to use that first one and add the shadow to that. So I've got effects on all of those. Okay, so now I've got my banner, which is the one that we would want to use this deepest shadow, which is the sixth one. So you've got, that's for your button and flowers, and then the sixth one here is for your banner and strings. And you can decide whether you want your shadow to drop to the left or the right. I'm using the left shadow on these. And see if you see that I'm going to undo that so you can see that in the video a little bit better. So click on that banner, click on that shadow, and you can see how that pops that paper off the page. We're going to do the same thing with this string, is use that same shadow, kind of pops it up since the string is going to be off your page, and so it's going to create a deeper shadow. The stitching right here, I didn't add a shadow to, and that's going to be your very first shadow, which is very shallow shadow. Hit my Control 0, will zoom out my page. Looks like I missed my shadow on this tag. And the tag, you can use the tag, you can use this one here that's for frames, layered paper, and that's also got tag on there. So that's a good one for tags. If you want your tag to stand out a little bit further, you can go ahead and use one of these other shadows that may make it a little deeper of a shadow. But yeah, just kind of play around with those. But it creates such a huge difference to add those to your layout and have those shadows, and makes it look more three-dimensional, like you've used real paper. Okay, so there are our shadows. We want to make sure that we save our layout, and we want to save it as a PSD. So I'm going to go ahead and save this layout, and then we'll come back to this layout for our next tutorial and add some journaling and a title for it. So I'm going to click on File, Save as PSD. I'm going to save it in my folder here that I'm working on. Save that. So that will save that to your computer so that we can pull it up again and everything will still be in layers. You want to make sure that it all stays in layers so that if you need to make any adjustments, you can still do that. So where we're going to be going out and then coming back in, I need to be able to move things around and add other things, my text and my title, and put things on different layers. So that is that for this class, and we will see you at our next one.